Good morning, good day, good evening, and magandang tanghali to every one of you. This is the second part of our discussion from a while back, and I'm very happy to see you again kahit hindi ko kayo nakikita physically. And I know maybe this during the last discussion kaninang tanghali, kanina a while ago, we've been discussing many things. I think it's been an hour, and this is another hour. So I was planning on a 3 hour discussion of the topics that we need to know. And we will be having a very short activity again to complete everything. I know some of you are already bombarded with, Ma'am, ang daming ginagawa. I have a lot of things to watch and so on and so on. But you don't need to feel that way. What you could do is you could start listening to our discussion while answering the activity over and over and over until your LS LSSS last song LSSS about what happened, and then it will be just part of your routinary day. So you could do this maybe uh in the evening or early morning. So it's up to you. And tomorrow we will see each other, I hope. Friday tomorrow. We don't have a class tomorrow, but maybe we'll be seeing each other sa ground. So now, without further ado, I'll be sharing my screen too. This is just a continuation of what we have discussed in the communication model. And wait, so I cannot see. Wait lang. Cannot see it. So I'll be using this one. Okay, so it's recovered. Save. I didn't know what I was sharing. I think I was sharing a different version. I'll stop sharing. This is not what I want to share. Wait for a moment. This one is what I want to share. Okay, for this one. All right. So now, let us go back with the communication competence model. In a while ago, we've been comparing the different focus of each, but this time we will dig deeper. I mean, we'll have a little bit of review about the communicative competence model. But let's begin with who introduced this communication model. Del Himes first introduced the idea of communicative competence in 1972. And later, Canale and Swain expanded into four key areas. This model focused on not just knowing the rules of a language, but also understanding how to use them effectively in real life situations. It's about using language appropriately in different settings and knowing how to solve communication challenges. So as easy as before we just know certain things about how we are supposed to use language in different aspect, but now we have different areas, we have different levels as well in which we can apply language in real life. Because let's face the fact, but the reason why we are studying the language is because we need it to converse, isn't it? The reason why we want to know how to speak English is that so we'll be globally competitive and recognized, just as the vision of Bulacan State University, to be globally competitive and recognized as a competitive when let's say a person who can do everything. So we could say that. And now it's one of the reasons that one of the things that I think will be a main factor why you'll be hired for your job interview, in your job interview, is your good communication skills. So we tend to learn the language in order for us to communicate. Now, here are some components of communicative competence with a simple explanation. So, in relatable examples. So, example natin, A while ago, we have discussed the grammatical competence. We have agreed that in a grammatical competence, you are more into grammar, sentence structure, word formation, and the pronunciation. We may say that other peoples are grammar Nazis, in which they're fond of the grammar itself. I myself, when I was younger, I do not care about grammar, but as I became more professional, I think I realized I've learned a lot. And every time I hear some people who this tell different words, the verbs that doesn't agree with the subject, it's really irritating. Now an example is the different for example, I've heard this, I think during a defense, said forgotten. My God, forgotten. Is you will feel, my God, it's really wrong, but it happens. As a teacher, we don't we not we aside from being um aside from noticing this one, we need to correct so that it won't happen again. And we have this the combination of become being a teacher and being exposed to the correct grammar shouldn't be uh how can I say this? Shouldn't be a reason for us to mock people, but rather we need this kind of combination to help other people to be to have a more correct way of conversing. Now, we also discuss social linguistic competence. Now that you know the grammatical competence, actually that's the most shallow. That's the most shallow part of being knowing the competence in a language, because you just know the superficial, the subjects and verb must agree with each other. But for the social linguistic, it depend, you know, the appropriateness, and depending to the social context and social conventions, when shall we use this term? A while ago, you know the meaning of this word, you know how to pronounce this word, you know how to use it in a sentence, but the question is when. When is the appropriate time for you to use the certain words? That is social linguistic competence. For example, in a formal meeting, you say, "Good morning, everyone. Let's discuss today's agenda." And then for friends, you say, "Hey, what's up?" You know. So, and also, in when you are answering, for instance, this is another thing. For example, you are going to the faculty room, and you always, when you say good morning, good morning, everyone. So, good morning, ma'am, good morning, sir. So, good morning, faculty. Ganon. So, it's the way you say these words. Yes, you know how to pronounce the words, but the way you say it, it should not be so loud. It's because when we there, I've heard some students who knocks like that in a faculty room. So that is very crude. And for example, I heard someone, isn't it because your teacher would always tell you to knock and good greet everyone. So I've heard some students, they knocked, they did it. Knock, the proper knock like that. Tan tan tan. May tono kasi, there's a the proper knock. Hindi siya bagsak. It's just tan tan. Okay, so gano'n, naka-close to, hindi siya nakaganon, hindi siya nakaganto, sakto lang din. May manner ng clock. And then, the way you greet, "Good morning po." "Good morning po." "Good morning, ma'am." "Good morning, sir." There's a lambing. But, I've heard some student, "Good morning, ma'am." "Good morning po." Hindi siya pasigaw. Because when you do that, some teachers, instead of being okay or being happy that you greet them, they might be mad because what you're doing is very it's not good. All right, so in different your friend, he cannot say that. And you cannot also greet our dean. For example, we go to the dean's office. Boss Dean. Ganon. So it's not proper, isn't it? Because we need to give our dean a proper greetings as well. So simple as that is actually very important. Now, this course competence is about your communication with clear, logical, and connected, whether you're speaking and writing. There are students, there are human beings, okay? So there are people that they're good and they know how to speak the language. They feel that they're good in the language. The problem is they're not coherent. Because I remember this, there are some people, they said that the sanity in insanity, there's a borderline. There's a borderline between insanity and sanity. Because sometimes some people who are very, very knowledgeable about a certain topic, what happens to them is they they believe in their self too much. Sobra na siya. They're very over. That to the point that it's not, I think you're sick because you have your brain thinks differently and not in a good way, in a way which is very destructive, not to you but to other people as well. So sometimes it's like that. So when a person is good in this course, it means that a person could easily organize his or her thoughts in a logical manner, in which when you discuss certain words, when this person discuss these words, you can generally picture out what he or she is saying. Okay. Ganun pala. So, for example, you've been telling a story from day one, what happened, how it happened. It's easy for you to organize. You have this course competence. Now, when we have strategic competence, oh, sorry. It's like this. This is your ability to handle communication problems when they arise, like finding ways to express yourself, if you forget a word, if there's a misunderstanding. So, for example, you forget the word. Okay, so ah, or maybe you don't know. I remember one of my teachers. He told me that he told our class that back then he was studying. He was a teacher in Saudi Arabia. And then he mentioned that there are carnivals. Now, what is a carnival? Because back then, now during his time staying in Saudi, they don't have carnivals. They're not allowed to go there, I think. So now you need to discuss what is a carnival to the person who doesn't know anything about it. So he doesn't know the carnival. So you will now describe how we'll describe a carnival. Okay, so a carnival is a place in which it's very colorful. You have rides. Mom, what is a ride? Okay. So a ride is something, it's a machine. It could be a machine or anything that is powered by the electricity, and you could play with your friends. You will ride there like a motorcycle, but let's say we have a carousel. Okay, so one of the rides that we have in carousel, in carnival, is a carousel. So it's like a horse, a barbecue type, in which it is a colorful white horses that has painted with pastel colors, and it seems that you're riding a horse. It is stick together like in music box, and then it is moving around. So any kids, since it is for adults or and also kids, you can actually ride there. And this one, while riding the horse, it's gliding. It's not gliding, but it's up and down and up and down and up and down while going in circles. So you could up and down, and then the view, it's circling around like that. So now they could get a picture of that. So what else? Okay, so then you could also eat a lot of junk food there, which is lots of sodas, lots of French fries, chocolates, and other fast food like food. In addition, you could also we also have um a place in which a roller coaster. What is a roller coaster, ma'am? Does it roll around? No, it's not. Imagine that you are riding a uh I forget what it is, a wagon. Are you familiar with the wagon? So what is a wagon? So something you put on the different um materials. So you're riding a wagon like this one, a square one, which has wheels on it. So you will be riding that, and then it has an attached seat belt so you can be safe. Now imagine that you have another wagon with you which is attached together, and then you will form attach another more set, let's say 20 sets of wagons like that one, and it feels that the shares is like a bus. So it means that you have one, it's like a train. Ayan, yes, it's like a train. Now, what you will do is you will go, some roller coasters are big, so big like buildings. And then now this roller coaster, this wagon, we will go there up and up and up while riding the the wagon, all of you. And then you will go down, you will circle, you will go with different loops, but it's safe. So you will tell them, oh, it's fun, it's scary. So yeah. Now, if you have strategic competence, you can describe. You don't remember this word, but you could easily describe another using other words. Okay. The question is, why is communicative competence important? Communicative is not about grammar. It's about making connections and sharing ideas in meaningful ways. This model emphasizes real world usage and helping learners become confident communications in any situations. So because by focusing on these four areas, learners develop the skills they need to navigate in different contexts, from a casual chat to professional discussions and everything in between. Now, this is one of the reason why we have IELTS. In IELTS, we're not just focusing on how we speak like an exam, a written exam, but I asked some, how do we have IELTS examinations? And it was said that in IELTS examinations, you don't usually uh in an IELTS examination, you don't wait for a moment. It's so so cool. Okay, sorry for that. So in an IELTS though, it was not about how good you are in grammar, but sometimes you'll be receiving a call. And then that is for listening skills. So you'll be receiving a call, and you need to take and this call is not about a story or something. It's just about a normal conversation about a person who will make a a reservation. I've heard a sample IELTS before, although I haven't taken it. I was just reviewing for it. And then you'll be listening to a conversation, 10 minute, I think 10 to 5 to 10 minutes conversation about a person who is making a reservation. So you will listen, and then you'll be asked questions will be asked afterwards. And for the speaking ability, I was asking how is the exam for speaking ability? And it was said that during the speaking ability, it's very easy. For example, you'll be asked, okay, so tell me something about your favorite music. My favorite music is it more on love, more or I love let's say I will be discussing. So I love Taylor Swift, because Taylor Swift is actually, it feels like she's telling a story. Although I'm not a fan of music, but I love listening to her. I also love Disney, so it's easy for you now. And okay, so it would be easier for you to just tell stories and describe yourself, share something, because it means that the more you share, the more you know, the more knowledge, and it means that it's easy for you to converse. So this is an example of communicative competence. Now, let's do this on your notebook. Copy and answer the following questions. Now, you will just write the question and the answer. Not just the letter, but a combination of the letter and the answer. So, yes, this one. So not circling, of course, you cannot circle, get single. Okay, so you could just copy paste it, but I'll give you some time. So copy paste, no, not copy paste. You can just screenshot or just stop. Okay, so it will be easier like this one. Sige, I'll give you some time, 2 minutes. Not 2 minutes. Okay, so let's have 3, 4, 5. 3, 4. Ay, sorry. Alright, so, ay, sorry. Pala pinipindot ko. Sa 5. Okay, so I'll be, now, ay, sorry. For 5. Okay, now let's have it part 2. True or false? Just write true or false. 6 to 7, 8. This one, I want you to write, of still, copy and answer. 7 to 10. 6 to 10 rather. Copy and answer. I hope that you already got a good shot. All right. So let's now have the next lesson. Distinction of linguistic approaches. So, aside from understanding the nature and foundation of language, learning the linguistic descriptions and approaches will help you understand better the intricacies of language and help you to narrow down your studies into a specific field that interests you the most. So, now we have descriptive versus prescriptive. How do we know this one? Don't say I speak English. You don't speak English, you say I speak in English. Notice how you see sentence A is presented. This sentence is an example of descriptive language commonly and conventionally used by many speakers around the world. Modern linguistics Modern linguists are very particular with the distinctions between a descriptive and prescriptive language, since for a long time there is a practice of strong insistence in the norms of traditional grammar. So now, when the descriptive approach is a linguistic distinction that describes, analyzes language according to how people verbally use it. There's a big difference in how people verbally use it because it emphasizes on recounting language as it is used and conventionally understood, not by how it has to be constructed. Modern linguistics Modern linguists view descriptive language as the product of the natural speaks and observe principles that look in the language exactly how it is spoken. For an example is how an example is how teachers always remind the students not to split infinitives. However, in many conversations, people use split infinitives and are usually understood. The statement to boldly go where no man has gone before. Instead of saying to go boldly where no man has gone before. Examples. Now, uh, usually, split infinitive is an infinitive muna. Let's have that. Infinitive is what? 2 plus, there's the plus sign here, plus the base form of the verb. So it's a combination. 2 plus the base form of the verb. And you're not allowed to put something here. You're not allowed to put an adverb there. Okay, so you're not allowed to. That is the prescriptive. Okay, so but a descriptive approach is it's okay. It doesn't matter as long as we already know that we've been doing that, we've been conversing through this, so it's okay. Now, the prescriptive approach, on the other hand, lays down the correct way of the structural arrangement of the words in the sentence. It is an approach based on what is considered to be structurally correct and accurate as determined by the group of academics. In short, it describes how language is prescribed to be used. So, certain forms of language are more accurate. So, it's very important. Now, synchronic versus diachronic. Language may be explored at a particular point in time for a very distant time. This is the distinction between synchronic and diachronic linguists. Synchronic and diachronic words in Latin words. So when language is studied at a particular time in history, synchronic siya. But diachronic focus on the language development through time. So there's a big difference. Synchronic is how the language is studied dun sa time na yon ng history during the medieval era, during this era, but dun naman sa isa na how it evolves through time, yon, that is diachronic. When studying the language structures or when exploring how words are combined, the study is again synchronic. Again, but historical. Okay, so we could also have, sorry. I cannot, ayan. So, diachronic again is focused in the historical, how it changes from this time, how it differs from this time to another time. The changes it brought, it is diachronic. Okay, so I think it's the same. When you say when you study how language evolves through time, comparative analysis, that's diachronic. Okay, so yan, tama tayo. Next is language versus parole. Now, language is this intangible linguistic scheme used by all members of the speech community. It refers to the set of rules and patterns which people need to follow. Parole, on the other hand, is concentratized. I think this is true. It's the concretized. Sorry, I think there's my concretized of language through actual use. Language is concretized using the rules and set of convention, while the parole is natural occurring and concrete. According to Saussure, language is non-figurative, non-verbalized, yet stable and systematic by nature, while parole is concretized through use of verbalized and composed of corpus and stable facts. Therefore, it cannot be studied easily. So I'll have here let's have some examples of language versus parole. Okay, so when we say language, to further exact, it stands for the system of conventions, rules. So everything about language, the descriptive part of language, the system, the convention, the rules, everything. On the other hand, parole refers to the act of speech itself. Okay, so language is the rules, but the parole is the things that you've said. It's a conversation, a poem, so that is the parole. Right. Okay. In addition to that, okay, so I was reading the difference. Wait lang. Yeah, so it's the same. It's the same. It's the and that's the reason why the parole is it is one of the description is it's language that adapts, evolves, expresses unique perspective, emotions within established framework. A sample of that is a poem, a renowned and social media post, the things that is more into performance. So parole, on the other hand, is also known as language performance. Ayan, so kompleto siya. That is for susur. Language competence versus language performance. The discrepancy of language competence and performance is related to language and parole. Why? According to Chomsky, competence is the speaker's knowledge of the grammatical rules of language, while performance is actual use of language and application of the grammatical rules. Language competence makes the speaker compose a chain of sentences in different structural patterns and then recognize errors they are committed, as well as vague constructions and fragments. Therefore, once the speakers are knowledgeable of the syntax, sounds, competence is stable. Stable competence, however, does not equal to stable performance. So I'll give you an example of this one. For example, we will study for language. We will study when we study the language, we could say, all right, um, for a while. Did you compose? Uh, I will give you an example. For example, I am competing for a extemporaneous speech, or in Tagalog, talumpating di handa. Now, what I'm gonna do is I would know how to say the words correctly. So I know that the first thing I know is to need to speak English. How can I speak English? I know I should know the rules. I know how to converse. But if now I'll be competing for this competition, um extemporaneous speech, and the other thing, what I will do is I will perform in front. I need to have hand gestures, the proper tone, the proper verbs. I need to know it right now at a moment, and what when to use these things. So that is parole. Parole is language performance. All right, so that's it. Now, ethic versus emic. When ethic, and also language competence is under Noam Chomsky, while parole is under Saussure. Ayan. So, baka maalala ko niyan dun sa inyong review sa LET. Okay. Ethic is the approach to language study that denotes the description on a particular non-structural or language culture that is generally objective in perspective and non-structural. It refers to cultural phenomena from the perspective of one who does not participate in culture. Ethic is used in making distinctions that are behaviorally, as the case of phonemic analysis. Ethic knowledge, according to Morris 1999, is the generalization of human behavior that is considered universally acceptable. Concerning language, it pertains into raw data without considering the data as significant units that are functioning in the system. While EMIC involves speech acts on situations that are confirmed as real as perceived by the speech community instead of the observations of the investigator and the study backgrounds. It is an approach that investigates how people think, see, categorize the meaning based on the practices, the rules, and behavior. Now, ethic again is the language that is acceptable for the whole, the practices. But for the EMIC is it is for a specific community. Ayan. Syntagmic versus paradigmatic. Syntagmatic relation describe the dimensions of language in a horizontal mode, such as the sequential orders of phones in the word pen, p, e, n, or the linear order of morpheme in the word impossibility as impossible, it. It also at the sequence of words of people using such a sentence, I am here, which is subject, verb, and adverb. So subject, verb, adverb. Paradigmatic relation describes the relation of the linguistic elements of the language outside the utterance. An example is I am here, that is with us not a set of words or grammatical unit, but a meaningful utterance specifying the speakers as I, who is at a certain location. Therefore, syntagmatic involves phonetics, morphology, and syntax, while paradigmatic involves semantics and pragmatics. So, what's the difference again with the two? Syntagmatic is, nahin natin yan. Syntax. Okay? Syntax. Okay. Now, paradigmatic involves phonetics, okay, pragmatics and semantics, which, okay, the difference between the two is syntax is the superficial level. Again, when we talk about syntax, it's parang multo dito. It involves syntax, the superficial, just the grammar. Paradigmatic, the other hand, it involves semantics. Okay, so which means to involve, okay, what's the meaning of this word? Okay, so yun yeah. Speech versus writing, as discussed in the first chapter, language is primarily an oral, which involves speech or communicating meaning verbally, therefore speech is primary, writing is just secondary. Writing is a record of the language presented in letters. Speech involves in the articulation of language using the speech organs and the reception of the message. It is sound-based and that meaning is perceived based on how units of sounds are combined. Writing follows a written code which gives the language a different characteristic and scope that speech does not have in writing. In writing, the message is carried through certain space or channel which is preserved and used through time. So we start everything with language with speech. Kaya speech is primary, secondary lang si writing. But the good thing about writing is in writing, we could save it. Yeah, true time. Let's engage. Answer the following tasks based on your understanding and of the distinctions. Create a concept map that illustrate the distinctions between the following linguistic approaches. We could use connecting lines in a brief description to show they are relate or concept. So I think task 1, sige, hindi ko na siya pagagawa sa inyo. Okay? You don't need to do this one. Don't worry. But what I want you to do is this task 2, case analysis. No need to do this one. I'll just put it. No need to do it. Now, we will have the case study. Read the following scenarios and determine which linguistic approach applies in its situations. Okay. Okay. Descriptive, prescriptive, synchronic, diachronic, language per role. Alin dyan sa apat na yan. So, for your notebook, write this on your notebook as well. You don't need to write and answer. Just write task 2, case analysis, scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, and scenario 4. Don't need to write which is which. Just write your answers. I hope you could just screenshot that one. All right. So let's have the next one. Okay. Let's have on your next later we will be discussing the third one. I think pwede na tayo sa third part. Yes. Yeah, we'll be discussing the third part of our discussion. Ito yung kalapit nung lesson natin last time. Since we already discussed the IPA in that chapter, last part na natin yung mamaya. So, I'll be discussing that later on. See you. So, I'll stop sharing this one. So, see you later and goodbye everyone. See you for a while. This is just your second part. Thank you.